hablo usted español? Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong language.
That's right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Enjoy English School. And in this school today, we're going to study a little Spanish because we are going to Spain.
没错，今天我们要带大家去西班牙，好，去感受一下那边的氛围。尤其最重要的事情是，我们今天主题呢是讲到番茄大战 ，OK？ 你不知道各位你们敢不敢去拿那个食物在丢食物大战？我个人觉得有点这样浪费食物不是很好，但是呢，这也是西班牙一个地方非常有名的传统。
Okay, let's get ready. Today, our article is called La Tomatina Festival. Well, if you know a lot of English, you know that La Tomatina is not English. And if you know something about European languages, if you see L-A or E-L and then another word, then you're probably looking at the Spanish language. Of course, we're not going to teach you Spanish, but it's important to know that La Tomatina Festival takes place in Spain in a small town.
没错，所以在这里的话，老师刚刚特别提到了，如果你看到的是西班牙文的话，它有一些特点，有的时候你会看到前面有 el， 好，就是他们的这个阳性的，然后 la 阴性的，都是指这个东西，好，它的一个冠词的一个感觉。那 La Tomatina Festival 就是我们今天讲的主题。番茄大战，它是发生在西班牙的一个很有名的小镇，他们会在这个地方举行番茄大战。
Okay, let's get busy with our first paragraph. Many children have experienced the fun of a food fight, but most of them grow up to understand that it's a waste. That is, it seems like a good idea when you're a kid. You throw some food at somebody and they throw it back, and then a lot of other children may join in. And it seems like, wow, this is cool. But later on, we realize we really shouldn't waste food. Now, if you do it once as a child or a few times as a child, children can't really understand that. But as adults, we can't approve of that.
没有错，好，这个东西的话，我们是不能认同的。Approve of something， 好，在这边的话，这句话就讲说 ，Many children have experienced the fun of a food fight。也许很多的小朋友呢，会觉得哇，打食物大战好好玩哦，太开心了啦，我拿这个豌豆来 K 你，来弹你这样子，But most of them grow up to understand that it's a waste。等慢慢他长大之后，发现到，哎呦不对，这样浪费食物是不好的行为。
Also.It's not nice to throw food at another person. Now, that depends on the situation. If you're in camp, summer camp, with friends, and you start a food fight, they understand this and they may enjoy it too. But normally, let's say you're in a movie, and if you throw popcorn at someone you don't know, it's not just bad manners, but you might start a fight.
没错，你拿这个爆米花去丢人家是要挑衅人家，可能会被揍，对不对？好，所以在这里的话，他说 ，Also, it's not nice to throw food at another person。对人家在那边丢食物，其实也是一个很糟糕的行为，不是吗
？However, for one town in Spain, the excitement of a food fight with overripe tomatoes has become a huge local tradition. In this sentence, now we say food fights generally are not good, but, however, in one town in Spain, and we learn in a moment, just once a year, people will have a food fight, and not just the children, everybody in the town. And the key word here is overripe tomatoes. That means they're not good to eat. They are the last tomatoes still in the field. Maybe they have disease or insects or they don't look good or something like this. Now, in this case, they would be thrown away anyway. You couldn't sell them, but you could have a food fight.
所以在这个地方就比较不算是浪费食物，在这个地方的 keyword 叫做 overripe。ripe 就是熟成 ，over 就是超过、超熟的这些水果，也不能拿来吃了，拿来卖也没人会买，反正都是要丢掉的，那干脆拿来做食物大战的原料。所以在这句话里面，他提到说了，他说 ，However, For one town in Spain， 好，在这个西班牙的某个城市里头，待会儿会讲 The excitement of a food fight with overripe tomatoes has become a huge local tradition。好，就是那种食物大战，用这种熟成的，而且是过熟的这些番茄作为食物大战的这个原料呢，好，那种兴奋的那种感觉，已经变成了当地他们非常非常著名的年度盛事了。
Every year on the last Wednesday of August, the Spanish town of Buñol holds La Tomatina, the largest food fight in the world, they say. Well, last Wednesday was the last Wednesday of this month, August, and they had this annual festival every year, not exactly on the same day, that is on the 29th or the 27th, but the last Wednesday of every August is when they have this big food fight.
老师刚刚提到一个非常重要的字汇 annual A-N-N-U-A-L，annual 这是一个形容词，指的是年度的，它是一个形容词。所以在这里的话呢，这个年度盛会，它整句话就讲了 Every year on the last Wednesday of August, the Spanish town of Buñol， 好，这个地方呢，好 holds La Tomatina， 他们就举办了这个活动 ，holds 这个地方指的是举办的意思，举办了这个番茄大战的活动 ，the largest food fight in the world， 也是全世界最大的食物大战场。
Okay, you'll learn a lot more about this festival after the break. Okay, welcome back. And I'm sorry I don't have any overripe tomatoes to throw at you, but maybe we can meet next year in Buñol and have some fun. Let's find out more about this festival, especially its history.The festival began around the mid-1940s. The mid, and then we have a 10-year period that we call a decade, D-E-C-A-D-E, D-E-C-A-D-E. A decade is 10 years. And in history, we often write about a period of time in the decade in which it occurred. World War II occurred from the late 1930s until the mid-1940s, 1945 to be exact. And maybe the people were so happy the war was over, they just got too excited, and there was food in the fields that was, you couldn't eat it, you couldn't sell it.Let's have a little fun with it.
就是有可能的事情，对不对？好，所以这边的话，老师特别提到说，很多时候如果提到什么年代的话，比方说1940年代，那可能就是1940到1949这整个10年的时间。那我们在这边这句话提到说 ，The festival began around the mid-1940s。好，在这边的话 ，mid-1940 就是1940年代的中期，差不多就是1944、45、46那个时候。老师刚才也提到说，在二战之后呢，然后1945年结束了之后，可能大家觉得说，哇，终于打完仗了，很开心。也许刚好还有一些食物也没办法吃了，可能就在这个时间点，好好让自己释放一下压力吧。或许也有可能是在这种场景之下，出现这个番茄大战的一个传统。
Let's find out more detail about this festival.During a town parade one year, someone in the crowd began throwing tomatoes at the people who were marching. Well, in most cases, this would be rude behavior. A march is usually people lined up, maybe playing music, and usually for a good purpose. To throw fruit, food, or especially tomatoes at people is a kind of insult in many Western cultures, in many European cultures. So let's find out how that turned into a festival.
没错，所以这句话呢，他就说啦，好 ，During a town parade one year， 在一次的这个城镇里头的一个游行里面 ，someone in the crowd， 然后有人在这个群众之间呢，就开始 began throwing tomatoes at the people who were marching。好，就游行的话都是有行进的队伍嘛，对不对？就在旁边观看的这些群众，其中有一个人就开始丢番茄。老师刚刚提到说，在西方文化里面，丢番茄这种事情呢，往往是非常非常没有礼貌。 在什么情况下会出现呢？其实是人家表演得很差的时候，他就开始丢一些烂掉的番茄，所以你会在网络上看到什么 Rotten Tomatoes 那个番茄的那种应该是说电影评论的网站，它之所以叫 Rotten Tomatoes， 其实就是有这样子的典故来的。好，就拿烂番茄去丢不好的这种剧作、这种表演，它其实是很不礼貌的行为。
People say that a year later, after this parade and the first time people threw tomatoes, some local youths, young people, brought more tomatoes to the parade to recreate, to reenact, to do again the chaos of the previous year. After people started throwing tomatoes, maybe people who were marching wanted to fight them, so it became like chaos. And some youth think, hey, this is cool.
没错，所以他要重现当时的那种混乱的景象。老师刚刚提到一个很重要的字，在这边的话，你可以用 recreate， 这是我们文章里面的字汇，或者你可以说 reenact。reenact 是 re， 好，通常会有一个小的 hyphen 吗
Usually.
Yeah， 然后再配上 enact，reenact 就是重现当时的场景，这是个动词。所以整句话他说了，people say that a year later， 好，之后呢，那一年不是发生了混乱的那种丢番茄状况吗？之后的那一年 ，some local youth。好，他就有些年轻人呢，想说，去年好像这个时候丢的很开心嘛，很兴奋，对不对 ？So brought more tomatoes to the parade， 就有人游行的时候呢，就带来更多番茄来，想要试图去重现去年时候那种混乱的场景。
The kids didn't know it then. That is the year after the parade started, that first group of kids who threw tomatoes, but their naughty fun, 调皮, naughty fun, it's still fun, but not everyone will like this, would grow into a popular local tradition. This kind of behavior is usually not approved of, but in this case it started a fashion, a festival.
没错，所以在这边的话呢，这些小朋友这些青少年万万没有想到怎么样 ？The kid didn't know it then。当时的他们只是觉得这样今年这样子重现一下，好好玩哦。没想到这样一丢，这样一闹呢，他们的 their naughty fun， 他们这种调皮捣蛋、这种嬉闹的行为、这种玩闹呢 ，would grow into a popular local tradition， 最后居然变成了当地一个年度盛事，这样子一个番茄大战，这是他们意想不到的。
We should also remember at the end of August is near the end of summer in the northern hemisphere, Europe and North America. And most of the crops, especially tomatoes, are already ripe or too ripe.
没错，因为像是如果说是到了8月底最后一个礼拜了，其实也是在夏末了。如果说今天这个时候还有番茄的话，这些番茄都已经太熟了，也就不能吃了。所以那个情况下，其实说实在，拿这些番茄来做，其实不算是太浪费食物的行为。
All right, we've looked at the history of the festival. Now let's bring it up to date a bit more after the break.
OK， 老师刚刚特别提到了一个字 ，bring up to date。如果说今天提到说我们刚刚看过了历史了，现在看看现在的情况，我们把镜头拉回到现在，就可以用这个词来表达。那我们来看看现在到底发生什么事喽。
Okay, the last paragraph. In recent years, tens of thousands have flocked to Buñol to join the fun. So now it's a successful festival with tens of thousands of people going to this small town to throw tomatoes in a huge food fight.
没错，所以现在呢，我们如果还有机会去这个西班牙的话，你去直接到了这个时间点呢，你去看一下说，他们在打这个番茄大战的时候，差不多就有上万人的人会去到这个地方。如果没有记错，我去查了一下这个网络上的资料是，他们只开放2万人进场。就是说，如果太多人的时候，他们会不好意思你们没有机会进来了，我们只开放2万人进场。恭喜你是第2万人，你可以进来。20001号不行，不能进来，是这样子的。所以说，在最近的这个情况呢 ，in recent year 近几年呢 ，tens of thousands have flocked to Buñol to join the fun， 有上万的人去到这个 Buñol 这个城镇里头去享受这场番茄大战的盛宴。
Yeah, flock means to group a large number of things, animals or people. At 11 o'clock a.m. on the day of the festival, the town signals bang or a flag or let's go or something like that, the start of the main event. So there's a time you have to be there by, but get there early if you want to join in the fun.
没错，所以在这边还告诉你说，在早上11点的时候 ，on the day of the festival， 在当天，好，就星期三早上11点的时候呢 ，the town 这城镇就会 signals the start of the main event， 意思就是指说它就开始，好，就是正式开跑番茄大战。然后大家就开始，可能11点01分的时候就拿起第一颗番茄开始 K 这样子。Here in this situation, can we say kick off?
Oh, great! Kick off, 2 words. K-I-C-K-O-F-F, and this probably comes from either soccer or American football because you kick the ball to start the game.
没错，所以这里的话，你也可以用 kick off 来表达说啊，整个这个盛会现在开始，好，开始做这件事情。你也可以用 kick off 这个片语来表达。我也常常听到人家这样说，好，这是一个很好的用法。
So whatever the signal is, then at that time.People start throwing tomatoes at everyone for about an hour. It's not all day. It's about an hour until noon.
OK， 所以接下来呢，大家听到这个，现在开始，然后大家就开始拿起番茄，看到人就砸，好，就开始玩这个游戏。玩多久呢 ？For an hour， 差不多玩1个小时的时间。
Everyone in the battle gets covered in tomatoes. Now they're calling it a battle.Like a small war, people are throwing as many tomatoes as they can, hitting as many people as they can, and they are being hit by others.
没错，所以变成是他们把它叫做是一场战役，对不对？他就说 everyone in the battle， 好，每一场战役里头的人们呢 gets covered in tomato， 满身满脸的都是这些被 K 过的番茄，好，脸上都是血红一片这样子，看起来感觉上蛮好玩的啦，
After the food fight is finished, people begin to clean up the mess. Good choice of word here, mess. You can imagine these overripe tomatoes, if you drop one, splat.
Yeah.
And if you throw one, it's even going to be more of a mess. If you throw thousands and thousands of tomatoes, if this is in the town on a street with buildings,Everything will be covered in red, overripe tomatoes.
没错，你可以想象那个场景真的很恐怖，对不对？好，到处都是番茄那种汁啊，到处满脸满身都是红红的。After the food fight is finished， 好，等到这个食物大战1个小时过后，到正午12点结束。People begin to clean up the mess， 所以最后大家就开始收拾残局。那个残局一定非常非常的可怕，这个 mess 就是一团乱的现象，大家开始来收拾了。
In fact, the citric acid in the tomatoes helps to get the streets extra clean each year. As you probably know, tomatoes have vitamin C, which is called citric acid.And this acid can take off oil and dirt from surfaces. In other words, you can use citric acid to clean things. So after all these tomatoes are on the street, on buildings, when you wash them off and remove them, you're also removing some of the dirt or mud that was there at first.
没错，所以在这里面的话，刚好这个番茄里面它的那个成分里头有维他命 C， 也有所谓的柠檬酸啊。这边提到这个 citric acid。I think you know the word citrus， 这种柑橘类的这种水果 citrus， 它就把那个后面的 us 去掉，变成 ic， 变成形容词，也就是这个柠檬酸。它里面含有柠檬酸嘛，它就讲说 ，in fact the citric acid， 这柠檬酸 in the tomatoes， 好，番茄里面的柠檬酸呢。Helps to get the streets extra clean each year。老师刚刚提到说，哈，所以到后来，这个柠檬酸本身可以去除掉可能某些东西表面上的一些那种油脂啦，或甚至是一些土啦。所以等到这个清洗干净之后，哈，整个街道啊各方面就更加的光亮，更加的干净了。
Okay, let's take a short break here before we give you a couple words for review. welcome back. Now we have a few words of fruits that have citric acid. Orange, you know it. Lemon, you probably know it. But do you know lime? L-I-M-E. L-I-M-E.
中文叫做莱姆，好，它这些水果呢，它本身都有柠檬酸啊，也就是我们讲的 citric acid。
Okay, well, I'm going back home and get my tomatoes ready for next year's Buñol Festival. Until then,
bye bye.
第62页，全球节庆，万旦齐发的疯狂番茄大战。
La Tomatina Festival. Many children have experienced the fun of a food fight, but most of them grow up to understand that it's a waste. Also, it's not nice to throw food at another person. However, from one town in Spain, the excitement of a food fight with overripe tomatoes has become a huge local tradition. Every year on the last Wednesday of August, the Spanish town of Buñol holds La Tomatina, the largest food fight in the world. The festival began around the mid-1940s. During a town parade one year, someone in the crowd began throwing tomatoes at the people who were marching. People say that a year later, some local youths brought more tomatoes to the parade to recreate the chaos of the previous year. The kids didn't know it then, but their naughty fun would grow into a popular local tradition. In recent years, tens of thousands have flocked to Buñol to join the fun. At 11 a.m. on the day of the festival, the town signals the start of the main event. Then people start throwing tomatoes at everyone for about an hour. Everyone in the battle gets covered in tomatoes. After the food fight is finished, people begin to clean up the mess. In fact, the citric acid in the tomatoes helps to get the streets extra clean each year.